Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco, and it's so great to be back here on 6abc.com. And for our radio lovers, also broadcasting on 1210 Talk Radio. I want to thank, as always, our watch team of corporate partners and sponsors who really are the backbone of the show. And later today in the show, you'll be hearing from one of them. Sherry Morrison will be bringing us Victoria Wright, who is a designer, and she's going to be telling us all about her work and business here in Philadelphia. If you're new to the show and you want to find out more information or to see who's coming up, be sure to visit our website at womentowatch.net. That's women, the number 2, watch.net. So now I'm very thrilled and honored to welcome to the show Katie Fitzgerald. Katie is the president and COO of Feeding America. Katie, welcome to the show.
Sue, thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here with you and with the audience today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you. And I know that, my gosh, your work has been so important over the past couple of years. And, you know, we're going to dig into what some of those challenges have been and hopefully hear some good news from you about how things are turning around. I wanted to give our listeners a sense of who you are and where you came from. So I wonder if you could just describe for me the community in Michigan where you grew up.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So I hail from East Lansing, Michigan, which is the home of Michigan State University, my alma mater for my undergrad. And I really had a great childhood experience, not without some challenges, to be sure, but I'm the daughter of 2 educators. My dad was a professor and then later an associate provost at the university. My mom was an English teacher, and I'm the baby of the family. So I have an older brother and an older sister, and I was really fortunate to grow up in a middle-class neighborhood. I lived on, if you can imagine, this cul-de-sac. And what's kind of unusual, I think, is that it was very racially diverse. And I think literally half the houses, about 8 houses in our little cul-de-sac, were African-American families. Other half were white families. And so I grew up in that neighborhood with a real rich experience, both with some religious diversity around my community as well as racial diversity. And I think that informed a lot of my worldview and the ways in which I wanted to be working in the space of creating opportunity for everyone later in my life.
Yeah. Tell me, did mom and dad talk to you about the advantages of this diverse, neighborhood and community and kind of talk to you about the positive impact that would have in your life?
It's so funny. Not really. I mean, I don't know, Sue. I think we're kind of maybe similar age group, but in the 70s and the 80s, like parents didn't talk to you a lot about it. It's a little different parenting style. So you just lived it. So, I mean, I have really vivid memories. My best friend growing up was her family attended the African Methodist Church, AME Church. I'm not sure I got that acronym completely right. So I'd go with her to church. My other good friend attended synagogue, and I would go with her to synagogue. And I grew up, my family was Eastern Orthodox. My mother's Serbian ethnically, but there was no Serbian Orthodox church in our community. So we attended a Greek Orthodox church. So I got very involved in Greek culture, even though I'm not Greek at all, and Greek dancing. And so I had this rich tapestry of very different cultural experiences that I just was immersed in. And my folks didn't really talk to me much about it, other than I would say this, which I think is really important. They valued it, right? Mm-hmm. By virtue of saying, oh yeah, go with Laura to Hebrew school. And oh yeah, you can go to church with this person and do all these different sorts of things. It just became a part of understanding the world and understanding that not everyone has the same racial, cultural experiences and identities as we did.
Yeah, that's really wonderful because you could sense that they were embracing it, even though they weren't verbalizing it. They
Right.
were perfectly okay with it. Go with whoever, you know.
Yeah. Go learn about
Oh,
that. Go learn
yeah,
about that, and with an openness and a valuing of it, right? Like,
right.
though it may not have been our family's religious tradition or whatever, it was like, this is good. You should
Yeah.
learn more about this. Yeah.
That's really wonderful. Something that we talk about on the show occasionally is imposter syndrome. And, you shared with me that at some point when you were young, your mom was battling severe depression. And you kind of tied that a little bit to your own leaning towards or falling into that imposter syndrome. Talk to me about how that connected.
Yeah, so I think generally for women, let me start there first. I think generally for women, because I certainly have experienced that throughout the course of my career, I would say it's better now. But even though I think a lot of women would look at my position and where I am in my career and think, well, surely she doesn't experience that at all anymore. That's not true. I mean, there's still elements and moments where that comes into play. And so I think generally, because I've been really involved in women's leadership sort of issues over time, there's some real truth to the fact that sort of societally, women aren't as sort of valued as men, and we second guess ourselves more, and there's a lot of research behind that. And so
Mhm.
I think that the experiences I had as a child, my mom, I admire her so much because she was the first in her family to go to college. And I remember her telling me stories about even her family, extended family members would say, why are you bothering to send her to college? Because she's just
Wow.
a secretary, or she's, it just was not understood. And I remember her telling me stories about when she was pregnant with my brother. She was a teacher. And in those days, you couldn't be pregnant and be a teacher because, God forbid the children see you're pregnant and what that conjures up.
Know where babies come from.
Right. I mean, so she had to hide her pregnancy till her 8th month. Luckily, she was real
Oh my
thin.
God.
She had to hide her pregnancy till her 8th month, and then she had to quit a profession she loved because she was pregnant.
Oh
So
my
this
God.
is within our this is just one generation removed, right? And a lot of our young female listeners probably can't even imagine that that was the reality in the 1960s. And it
Right.
was. My mom experienced some depression in when we were kids, and I think for me, I'm not so sure how much that contributed to the imposter syndrome as much as it actually contributed to my kind of stick to itness and my kind of need to rely on myself a little bit, because there were times where she couldn't
Mm.
really be emotionally available as
Right.
much as she would want to be for us.
Mm.
And so I had to kind of figure out how to get what I needed a little bit from myself. Now, what that means is that, you can't give yourself everything you need. You need other people too, right? So
Right.
at times when my well was dry, perhaps when I experience imposter syndrome, is when I'm sort of like not sure I'm good enough. And I think when you experience, and that's the linkage, when you experience a parent or a family member where the relationship has been challenged by in this case her being depressed. I certainly had some experiences of feeling not good enough,
Mhm.
sort of for my mom, and that probably contributes to the imposter syndrome. So there's both being a woman generally, I think we're more susceptible to it, and then if we've experienced some sort of trauma in our life, then it's going to kind of increase that likelihood a bit. And it could be with a parent, it could be other trauma that women might experience that makes us question our own worthiness.
Mhm.
And it really requires really, really important thought work to take those thoughts that enter your mind and put them here and examine them more rationally, right? And
Mm.
say, okay, what your mind is telling you right now doesn't really make sense.
It's not true. It's not reality.
true. It's not reality.
Yeah.
And times in my career, I've just had to like trust and move forward. And that's my best advice for women and young women, especially. I've seen a lot of women get kind of crippled by imposter syndrome, or not take that next opportunity, or not apply for that job because they're sort of convinced they can't do it. And I always say to people, someone will tell you if you're not making the cut. Someone will tell you in the interview process if you're not good. Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice. Do you remember when, because I'm assuming there was a turning point for you. You know, you're so very comfortable in your own skin today. And I think this is one of the advantages is to the second half, right, of our life. We kind of stop worrying about what others are thinking. Do you remember an aha moment? Do you remember a time or an experience where you thought, you know what, I don't have to pretend anymore. I can just fully be me.
Wow. Gosh, I don't know that there was one experience or one event, to be honest. I think it sort of has evolved for me. I think I would say where it's turned for me the most, and especially I led a lot of nonprofit organizations at the local or state level. And when I took this position at the national level, that's probably where, I still felt like, gosh, am I really ready for this? And I was going to be leading teams where I didn't have a depth of skills or expertise, but in a much larger organization. And what made the difference for me were good coaches and mentors, including my current boss, who happened to be a woman and who could say, you can do this. I believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really practice not letting fear make choices for me. And there's a wonderful Nelson Mandela quote, and I'm looking to see if I can find it because I usually carry it here in my book, and I don't have it, but it's something about let hope be the guide for your decisions, and don't let fear be the guide. And so when I'm in those circumstances where I'm unsure about taking a next step, I always really try to think about, is this the fear in me that's informing my decision? Or again, can I just look at this rationally and be optimistic about my track record and my ability to be successful in the roles that I've had?
Yeah, it's so interesting, Katie, because you have been in leadership positions for a very long time. You mentioned Make-A-Wish. You were with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. You were with Kellogg. Well, first of all, I wanted to say, I have a quote. You said, I was always wanting to be an agent for change with regard to poverty. And it's rare that I have a guest who knew from a very young age what their aspirations were and then stayed with that for all of their career. What was it about poverty that struck your heart and wanted you to help?
Yeah, so I really think it goes back to my formative years and my childhood and my upbringing, because I had this wonderful opportunity to grow up with a fairly diverse mix of peers, both socioeconomically, racially. I saw it, and probably my home environment, which was pretty socially conscious. And, we'd sit at the dinner table, Sue, and 60 Minutes would be on, and we'd be debating all kinds of current events in our household. So, it was an environment where there was a lot of dialogue and engagement about the challenges of the world around us. So that all informed sort of my worldview. And what I experienced in my formative years of high school into college is I had these opportunities kind of lined up for me. I educated parents. There was an assumption I would go to college. That was so obvious, and that was so clear. And I had peers for whom that was not the case. And for some of whom it was, really different pathways. And for a few people, really negative pathways into drug abuse or, engagement in that regard, or other sorts of activities that were certainly not college bound. And I just saw through my experience how clearly I had privilege, right? In the 80s and 90s, we didn't have the same language around equity, diversity, and inclusion that we have today. And so I always talked about it as opportunity. Like I could tell that I wasn't, I like myself. I think I'm great, but I'm no more special than another friend of mine. And here I had all this opportunity that I really didn't do anything to bring about. My parents were able to provide for me. And it was so clear to me how kind of unfair that was, right? Because I saw people who had opportunity who could not capitalize on it. So before I had the language for it, I just knew that there was something inherently wrong about that, in the sense that it's not fair, but also what are we missing when young people can't fulfill their full potential, right? When they're limited by their resources to pursue education or to be who all they can be for our communities. So that was really evident to me very early on. And I knew I had a lot of interest in social justice, thought I'd go to law school, didn't do that, but did get a social work degree and have just never looked back since.
And you cared, by the way. So,
yeah.
Right. So you were experiencing that and you were observing and you were noticing, but you took it a step further because you cared about it to make a change. Your mom, do you have those kind of robust conversations at the dinner table with your kids?
Oh, yeah. So I have 3 children. So much like the family of origin that I came from, I have 3 children, and absolutely we debate issues. We talk about issues. We have loud conversations. And I've always, the other thing that I believe that my children are their own people. So I don't think they have to think about the world exactly the way I think about the world. I want to support their pathway. I've been delighted to see them as they become adults, become very conscious of others around them and the role they want to play in the world, which I'm sure will be different than what I have done. But we have always emphasized inclusion and equity and the importance of keeping relationships in our lives that expose us to the broader world. So those same experiences that informed my childhood, we've worked really hard to create for our children as well.
And, that's really the answer, I think, to having impact, is to starting, the parents who's ever rearing the young people, to instill that in them. And then it'll be second nature. And I really believe that's coming about and absolutely will happen. We're going to go into our first break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your professional journey. Okay. Stay with us and we'll be back with Katie Fitzgerald.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake them out. Mama, go up,
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined by Katie Fitzgerald, the president and COO of Feeding America. That's a big job. You know, when I think about operations for Feeding America, I just seems very overwhelming to me. I saw an interview you did in 2020, and you talked about the number 40 million people suffer from food insecurity in the U.S., and that was shocking to me. And I wondered, where are we today here in 2022, having gone through COVID?
Yeah, so it's the last, I guess I would say, 3 years has just been a roller coaster, right? And there was there was the pandemic, the intensity of the pandemic, where we really faced a perfect storm in that demand skyrocketed, as you know, and most of the listeners will know, with the real economic closures that we were experiencing as a nation, and people all of a sudden not being able to work. And supply chain was all gummed up again, as people recall, if you remember the toilet paper days, as well as,
and still today, right? Still today, there's supply chain issues. Yeah.
And then the operating model challenge, food banking and the charitable food system in this country is largely a congregate activity, right? Groups of people come together, they organize the food, they share it and distribute it, and that's hand to hand, person to person. So we faced tremendous challenge early on. What I'm so proud about with our network, which we're the Feeding America National Network, covers every county and parish in the United States, including Puerto Rico. And we were able, over the course of this pandemic, if you take about the 2 years of it, we have served over 10 billion meals through that network. But the issues just keep evolving. So while while people are back to work, now the issue we're facing, as folks are well aware of, all of us, is inflation, right? And food insecurity is an issue of economic trade-offs. So for low-income households, about a third of low-income households' income is spent on food. And so when prices are high, as they are now, not only on food, on gas, on everything else, people are going to just cut those budgets. And that's really, so, what we see now is that we're seeing this ongoing elevated level of demand. And it's been increasing over the months that inflation has been increasing. So we're in a really difficult position right now because we're still having supply chain problems, as you mentioned. The cost of securing food, even donated food for which we pay freight, is way high. And we're really trying to continue to meet that demand. And it's just an ongoing challenge for us, but we work really hard on it every day.
Tell me about your volunteers. Have you seen an increase in volunteers? And I was curious as well, male versus female. Are most of your volunteers women?
Oh gosh, I actually don't know. I don't have that data, so I can't say for sure. I can only speak sort of anecdotally about it. So the beauty of our network is we do rely on over 2 million volunteers a year to help source, sort, distribute food for people who are facing hunger. And that includes, so there's 200 food banks. There are 60,000 partner agencies in communities, which are your local churches, your Boys and Girls Clubs, all kinds of other partners that most people would readily come to mind when they think about their local community food pantries. And those are largely volunteer run and driven. So it's a largely volunteer-based system. In the early days of COVID, the great challenge was we had to kind of shut down our volunteer centers, right? Because at the time we had no personal protection equipment. We wanted to prioritize, as did everyone else, hospitals and what was needed there. We figured out how to do things through the car drive-throughs and all of that people saw on television. Now volunteers are back. which is terrific. And I would say it's such a mix, Sue. I don't know that it's more women than men. When I think back to being in a volunteer center right now, we have school groups and we have faith-based organizations coming in, a lot of retirees, people who really want to stay active and do work. But it's just a wonderful mix of all ages, very intergenerational, because everyone can relate to the value of access to nutritious food in their lives. And food brings us together, and we see that in our volunteer centers across the country.
So when I think about the work that you're doing in the organization, and it's very basic and obvious, you're feeding people who need to be fed. How much of your time is spent strategizing or brainstorming or thinking about how can we end this cycle? And I would imagine your team, people have different views on that and different opinions and different ideas. So I'm curious, as a leader as well, how you manage those different ideas and thoughts.
So, I mean, it's just an incredible question. And it's really important that people who are listening understand that food banks and their partners across this country are here to meet the immediate emergency need. And they are very engaged in deep, ongoing partnerships to move people who have the opportunity to get out of food insecurity permanently into pathways where they are food secure, where they're able to make enough money, have enough economic stability to be able to provide for their families. So we have workforce development programs all across our network where people are being trained in our warehouse operations and culinary kitchens that food banks operate so that they can get into gainful employment and be able to provide for their families. Now, there are always going to be some populations of people in our country for whom a pathway to greater food or economic stability and food security is a challenge. And that includes seniors who are living on fixed income and who don't have much in the way of savings or retirement. It includes children who are living in poverty, and it includes people who have disabilities, who may not be able to work. So we talk about this as feed the line work and shorten the line work. And we work on that in an integrated way to make sure that we're meeting people in communities where they are. We're making sure that they have food today, but that we're helping people connect to pathways to greater economic stability and security so that they no longer need the food banking system.
Yeah, that I think is so key and important, because most people want to be independent, right?
Absolutely.
They want to create, a life of their own where they can.
Yeah, and Sue, I have to just tell you this one story. So this goes back to when I was leading the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma, which served 2/3 of the state of Oklahoma. And it was during a government shutdown. This precedes the pandemic. And all of a sudden, people didn't have paychecks, right? And these were government employees. And we set up a big distribution to help people get through this period of time. There was a gentleman who came in, I'll never forget this as long as I live, who couldn't lift his eyes up and make eye contact with us. He had tears coming down his face. He was so ashamed that I am a donor to this food bank. And all of a sudden, I'm in a position where I need to come and get some help.
Wow.
And what we try to help, so a couple things that elucidates. One is that many Americans are living paycheck by paycheck. And we saw that in the pandemic, right? We saw the surge of people who all of a sudden, without that paycheck, a couple weeks in, need food assistance. And I think fundamentally, there is work to be done in this country to change that circumstance, because we should not have so many families and so many people on that edge of food insecurity and economic insecurity. But the other thing that it said is that people do feel some stigma about that. And what we do try to help people understand is that they should not. We want people to get the help they need, because if they can work with a food bank or a local food program to help subsidize, even in their short time of need, their food, they can keep their house payment going, keep their rent payment going, keep their car to get to their job. So many people who are utilizing the charitable food system do work. And what we don't want people to do is lose those jobs because they're having to use those scarce resources for food when we can help them.
Right. Tell me what you think about teaching kids about economics and money as opposed to just math.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think I'm not an education expert, so I'm only speaking as an individual here. But I think I've seen, even with my own children's education, a movement back toward those life skills and sort of the ability to help young people learn budgeting and savings, the risk of credit, all those kinds of things that are going to help young people really be able to understand how to manage their money moving forward. And having said that, I will say there are a lot of people who use the charitable food system who are managing their money well. They just don't have enough of it. So a lot of this has to do with, we're coming out of about a 40-year period in this country where real wages have not really grown near the rate of inflation. And the costs, if you think about how education costs have changed in 40 years in this country, how healthcare costs have changed. So there are some fundamental system challenges that people are facing, and we can do more from a policy perspective to improve that. But in addition, we need to do all we can to help young people understand how to manage their money effectively and budget and make sure that their basic needs are met.
Right. One of the things I think about so often in the world that we live in, and I think you and I spoke about this when we first met, every day, all day long, we can see and hear and know what's going on globally. And that, on one side, I think it's fascinating and it's a learning experience. On the other side, I think it creates a lot of anxiety for people, right? Young and old. It's so much to know. So, and before we can do anything with our lives, right, and manage anything, we need to be okay, mentally.
Right.
How do you manage your own anxiety? Because I know that because of your work, you see some tough things, and is there advice you can give the viewers about, just what your daily mantra might be when you start to feel hopeless about the heaviness of it?
Yeah, no, I think it is really our generation's challenge. There's great value, as you said, in having access to all the information we have about what's happening in the world. But the downside to that is we carry that anxiety, and I think we've seen that in our children, frankly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially during the pandemic, with the recent school shootings. I said to my 19-year-old son the other day, I just said, I can't believe the amount of anxiety that young people carry with them today.
Yeah.
And yet they persevere. And I have
Mm-hmm.
such admiration for this generation that continues to persevere. For myself, I exercise. That's really important. I'm trying to meditate. I do think anything that people can do, whether I really need, I'm not a big meditator, but I do try to really create space for my mind to quiet and to sort of just be grounded. I'm in, like many of your listeners, I'm in meeting after meeting all day. And usually the meetings I'm in, there are no simple answers to the challenges people are sharing. So that builds anxiety for people. And what I really try to channel, and with my team, is being reflective and being curious, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have to come into every meeting and every situation with a solution. And if you allow yourself to sit back and be reflective and to be curious, it gets you asking questions, and it gets you more open to the range of solutions that are available, and to understand that things can't be fixed overnight. So there's patience in that, there's curiosity in that, there's reflection in that. And then my last piece of advice is really avoid scrolling through that social media ad nauseum, right? That's not good for anybody. I mean, I like social media as much as the next person, but if you're spending a huge amount of time there, that can be kind of a wormhole that's hard to get back out of.
Right, right. And it's so conflicting because sometimes you're seeing incredibly beautiful images and funny, videos and all that. And then boom, something pops up that just completely switches your mindset for the day. And nobody needs that. I wanted to ask you as well, when I think about hunger here in the United States and compared to hunger in other countries, do you spend time engaging with leaders of other countries and learn from them? And do they learn from us on how, new programs and how to tackle it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are peers to several food banking networks that are in other countries. So there's food banking networks in Canada, in Europe. There's a global food banking network that we really partner with and connect with. Now, our scope and where we're focused is on domestic hunger, but we share lessons learned with each other and really try to help support each other. So especially recently with the war in Ukraine, we have done everything we can to connect our local network to folks who are working to make sure that there's food and support for the refugees, working with international relief organizations and the Global Food Banking Network in Europe, to make sure that we're channeling whatever resources we can their way without taking away from the resources that we have here to serve people in this country. So, countries are different, and the needs of countries manifest differently. I think there are a lot of folks who look at less developed nations and think, well, how can the U.S. have food insecurity? If you look at less developed nations,
people do ask that.
Yeah, and in our country, food is so ubiquitous that it just seems like not a plausible idea. But what we help people to understand is that it's all relative, right? So what we see in this country, again, is though our incomes are higher as a developed nation, though our level of living and lifestyle is better in many respects, we still have a very real situation where families don't have enough income to be able to provide the nutritious food that their family needs. And that is real for people, and it is causing real damage, both health-wise and in terms of those families' food and economic security. So it's all very relative.
Yeah. Are you hopeful, Katie, that, within your and my lifetime, we'll see progress?
I am. And I think we already have. I mean, one of the silver linings, and I really mean this because I don't believe that things are sort of meant to happen, but I think we have to look at circumstances and be able to draw lessons from those. So one of the lessons that we've drawn from the pandemic is that people really saw how close millions of American households are to food insecurity, where a couple paychecks away from not being able to feed their children, pay their mortgage or their rent, etc. And that should be a wake-up call, and I believe it has been, because we've seen a lot more support and a lot more awareness building around people in this country understanding that access to nutritious food should be a fundamental opportunity that every American should have, and that we all can play a part in that. So we're seeing that manifest in policy solutions that are emerging at state and federal levels. We're seeing it manifest in more donations being given to the charitable food cause, more volunteers coming in to be a part of it, more food justice work to make sure that areas of our country that people will call like a food desert, right, have access to grocery stores and ability for local food systems to be sustainable and to thrive. So these are all really positive advancements, and I think that I'm very hopeful that this is a problem. This country, Sue, I'll just conclude by saying we we don't have a food problem in the US. We have a food access and food distribution problem. And that is a problem we can fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I have all the faith in the world in you that you're going to do it. You're already having great impact. And I'm so appreciative of your taking time to share your story, Katie. And I wish you continued success.
Thank you. And thank you for doing the show you do, Sue, and for lifting up women and helping us lean on each other and support each other through the journeys of leadership that we're trying to advance for one another.
We need to do it. We need to do it.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to go into our next break. And when we come back, I'll be joined by Sherry Morrison, our lifestyle contributor, and she'll be profiling Victoria Wright, a designer. We'll be right back.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama go up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh. Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, welcome back to the show. You're watching Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco, and I'm always thrilled and excited to welcome our lifestyle contributor, Sherry Morrison, to the show. And this week, she's going to be spotlighting Victoria Wright, a local designer in Philadelphia. So welcome both to the show.
Thanks, Sue. I am, as Sue said, visiting Victoria Wright in a very cool location at the Made Institute on North 10th Street in Philadelphia. Victoria is an instructor here, an entrepreneur, designer, and has created her own label, Victoria Wright. Thank you for having us today, Victoria.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
By the way, I think Victoria Wright is a perfect name for a designer.
It is.
Right? It is.
Check out her lapel with her little logo there. It's awesome.
Oh, I can't quite see it, but
great looking. Anyway, before we dig into Victoria's personal label, I would love it if she would tell us a little bit about this location, the studio, and the educational opportunities here at the Made Institute.
Yeah, so I'm very proud to be a business of fashion instructor here at Made Institute. It is an independent fashion school located in Philadelphia and offers a 12-month designer development program for aspiring designers to prepare them in order to launch their own labels and as well as to start their careers in the fashion industry. We cover everything from pattern making, sewing, production, design, illustration, etc. And in 12 months, the students get a fashion design certificate.
It's a great location and space. It's so much fun to be in here. Even when you're walking in the outside, you can't help but notice it because it has some murals on the outside and some great painting. It just looks like an artsy place you want to walk in and say, what's going on in there? And I think it used to be a bicycle factory, judging by the top of the building and what you can barely read on the top of it. So anyway, going towards your label, Victoria, your mantra is empowering women one stitch at a time. Pretty much says it all. Please share your story, how the Victoria Wright label came to be.
Sure. So I started about 9 years ago as a ready-to-wear line, meaning that I sold things off the rack through boutiques and small retailers. But the made-to-measure portion of my line all got started when my husband got a tailor-made suit for our wedding. It was such a cool experience where he got to choose his own fabrics and everything was just made exactly to fit his body. And I thought, why isn't this available for women? And I did some research and found that it really is not easily accessible for women to have this tailor-made experience. So for those who aren't familiar with made to measure, how it works is customer comes to my studio. We select a set style, like a blazer, for example. The customer chooses from a library of luxurious fabrics in all different colors and patterns. We choose different style details, like what kind of lapel you want, if you want some embroidery or a pop lining. And then I measure the customer so that we make sure that the piece fits them perfectly. So you can say goodbye to fitting room anxiety and hello to a tailor-made wardrobe with Victoria Wright.
That's so cool. So when you're working with somebody, I know you treat them to a little bit more than just fitting them and making sure that they pick everything out. You usually have a little Prosecco and a little bit of things to nibble on, and you make it a really fun experience. It's like going out for an afternoon. So much fun. So what is your goal when you work with someone?
My goal when I work with a customer is to create a look that really expresses the customer's unique personality. The smile on a customer's face when they walk out of my studio wearing one of my designs is really the greatest reward of being a fashion designer.
That's a great goal. And, as we all know, we are all originals. So why not have an original to wear in your closet, right?
That's right.
You've shared some really fun stories with me. I asked you about what your first piece was and some of your more exciting projects. Can you share some of those with us?
Sure. So my first ever design was actually completely custom. So this is another service I offer where I can do something totally from the ground up, do a design special for a customer that is completely one of a kind. So my first design was actually for the International Debutante Ball in New York City. And it was for one of the women that was on the chair of the ball. A stylist found me and hired me fresh out of school. And I made this beautiful emerald green gown for one of the board members for that debutante ball. And my favorite project that I'm working on at the moment, which I can't speak too much about, is but I can say a little hint. It's a wedding suit for a LGBTQ wedding, and I'm very excited to be offering, these non-traditional wedding options. And wedding suits have been growing in popularity, and it's something I initially didn't realize was a niche that I can help with. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that now.
Well, that's very cool. It would be really fun, since you work with women, to be able to do both partners in the weddings outfits and maybe keep them a secret, but develop something that kind of is coordinated but not has a look that ties them together and just makes it kind of a fun partnership.
Oh, I would love to do that. That's definitely one of my top dreams, to be able to outfit the whole wedding party.
Can I ask a quick question? Is it tougher to design a suit, Victoria, or a dress, or is it neither or?
Ooh, that's a really great question. There's challenges in each and every piece. It really depends on the style. Suits, we have to worry about tailoring and fitting it directly to the body. But then sometimes different customers will want something that's a little bit of a looser fit, and that's a little easier. Whereas if there's a dress that's very corseted and very structured, that can be a lot more challenging using those different couture techniques to make that. So I don't have a great answer. It's basically, it depends on the design, but they each have their own challenges and they each have their own, unique attributes that make them really fun for me to design.
Good question. I would imagine that suits are more difficult, but
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole experience has been really cool for me because my mother used to make all of my clothing, and coming into this space, my mom had her sewing room and the big tables and the sewing machine and the mannequins. And so it was a little emotional at first when I walked in.
What is it about mannequins that are so theatrical and exciting, just seeing her, with all the mannequins behind her with something in creation.
Yeah, they're fun. You can do so much with them, right, Victoria?
Definitely. Yeah. I don't know. I think there's something about that, artisanal aspect of fashion design, as well as just being able to create something that's really kind of seems glamorous on the outside. Although, of course, there's a lot of challenges being a fashion designer. There is certainly an element of glamour to it. And I think the mannequin is a good symbol of that.
Yeah. So you have some new projects on the horizon. Custom coming soon, jeans and sweaters. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. So one of the things I noticed that I think I don't know any women that have had a, easy peasy way of finding perfectly fitted jeans. So
it's the bane of our existence.
So I came up with a solution, custom made denim jeans with stretch, of course. So they will be launching on July 1st it's a small selection of 3 different really beautiful stretch denim fabrics in different colors and washes. And you can do any kind of fit you want. You can do a straight leg, skinny leg, wide leg, cropped, full length, lots of different options to really customize the denim and make it really your own. And then in addition, for the fall time, we'll be offering some customizable sweaters. So you can choose from set designs and choose what kind of color yarn you want, what type of yarn you want, and what kind of stitch you want. Do you want a cable knit, a rib knit, plain knit? So it's a really fun, interactive process to get exactly the design that you're looking for.
I'm always so excited when I find a pair of jeans to fit, and then you wash them and they're like 2 inches shorter, and it's like, what happened?
If you don't wash them, then sometimes they're stiff. That's a good. What's the secret to? I'm always questioning: do I wash them or just let them air dry? But you never get the right feel.
Well, I'll tell you the secret. The secret is to buy them just a little bit bigger if you're in between sizes, because they will shrink in the wash oftentimes. It's cotton. It's just kind of a natural thing that will happen. And then if you buy it just a little bit bigger, then it'll shrink and be the perfect size. Now, if you find the perfect size and you're just in love with it and you cannot go with the bigger size, it's too big, then the trick is not to put it in the dryer, just to let them air dry. And then they won't shrink, because it's really the drying process with the high heat that will shrink the cotton fibers.
These are big problems. These are very serious problems. I'm thinking about my guest. We just spoke about hunger in America, and now we're
getting our jeans to fit.
We're not solving world hunger here, but if it makes it easier for you to get dressed in the morning, I hope that I can inspire confidence in women to go out and solve those problems.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. So if you're tired of the dressing room blues, this could be the perfect option for you. I know I'm going to be in. Victoria, thank you for sharing this great space and your exciting venture. It was really nice to meet you, and I can't wait to spend a little more time here and learn more. For information, go to the website listed at the bottom of the screen, Victoria-Wright. That's Wright as in the Wright Brothers.com. So Victoria-Wright.com. And I hope you will join me next week when I head to a new delicious culture in Phoenixville, when we meet Olga Sorzano, founder of Baba's Brew Kombucha and Vinegar. So thanks so much again, and keep living those dreams, ladies.
Thanks, Sherry. I love your segments. And Victoria, it was really great to meet you. I'm definitely going to be coming in as well.
Wonderful. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We're going to go into our last break, and we'll be back with Women to Watch.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yeah. Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left. Fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back again to the show. Just in time for me to wrap it up and say thank you so much to Katie Fitzgerald, the president and CEO of Feeding America. She's doing some great work, and I'm so appreciative of her coming on the show. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, and Sherry Marson for her really fun lifestyle segment where we get to see some women business owners. Stay tuned next week for my interview with Dr. Margot Weissar. She is the founder of her own Springhouse Dermatology Center just outside of Philadelphia. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great week, everyone.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left. Fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.